Salutations! Today's video is about something I've been wanting to cover for a long time now, and now I think it's the right time to do it. I want to talk about Halo Combat Evolved's Sandbox and how misunderstood it is by the general public. Halo CE is my favorite game in the series primarily due to how well this game's weapon and vehicle sandbox mesh with both modes of play, whether it's multiplayer or campaign. Everything in this game has unique traits that none of the other members of the sandbox can achieve. Traits that can actually benefit the users in meaningful ways, and I'd like to shed light on these details to hopefully have more people appreciate them the way I do. With Hidden Xperia recently making a video about how Halo 1 deserves a proper remake, I'd like to have this video serve as an addendum to that. I feel if a Halo 1 remake is to be made of the same caliber as the recently released Dead Space 1 remake, for example, the aspects that made the original game's sandbox as good as it was must be preserved. And I'm going to go into detail on just how deep Halo 1's sandbox really is and what makes it so special to me. With all that said, let's begin. When most people think about Halo 1's weapon roster, it always starts with the Magnum, the good old reliable M6D pistol. So many people misunderstand this weapon, even past Halo developers.
And of course the Magnum's back. Everyone remembers that fantastically overpowered pistol. Stop!
I'm not going to deny the fact that Halo 1 pistol is really good. But overpowered? I don't think so. Jarek made a video recently going into detail about this very subject, and I highly recommend you give it a watch before you continue watching my own video. He covers a lot of the points I would have said, but I'd like to repeat at least one talking point from his video that I feel should be the main public service announcement surrounding the pistol. Just because the pistol can 3-shot kill players doesn't make this weapon OP. It's way easier to obtain a 4-burst BR kill in Halo 2 or a 5-shot DMR kill in Halo Reach than it is to get a 3-shot kill with the Halo 1 pistol. Not only is the bullet magnetism prerequisite much more strict in this game than it is in later Halo titles, but the projectile velocity is not that fast either, and requires shot leading in areas with longer sight lines. Projectiles travel at 300 world units per second, which is noticeably slow compared to Reach's DMR, which has projectiles that travel 4 times as fast at 1200 world units per second. On the subject of bullet velocity, I do want to make one correction in Jarek's video about Halo 2's battle rifle. He mentions that the BR's projectiles are so fast that they may as well be hit scan, but that's not the case. The BR rounds are slightly faster than Halo 1's pistol rounds, traveling at 400 world units per second. This is also slow enough on larger maps to require some shot leading. In summary, getting a 3-shot kill is actually quite skillful, since it requires the user to aim well and predict where the opponent is going to move. The same cannot be said for the Halo 5 version of this weapon. The bullet magnetism prerequisite value is much easier to achieve in this game, making 3-shot kills much more common. To start off with some of my own talking points, I want to talk about melee attacks. The Halo 1 pistol is objectively the worst melee option in the game. Not only is its melee speed relatively slow, the pistol's melee in particular has the lowest range in the entire game. To briefly talk about Halo 1's melee mechanics, unlike in Halo 2 and onwards, there's no lunge system in place. Where you aim your melee attack is exactly where it's going to go. Another factor is the aforementioned range. Weapons in Halo 1 have varying levels of melee range, and there's 4 tiers. In Tier 1, with the furthest range, we have the rocket launcher. In Tier 2, we have the assault rifle and the sniper rifle. In Tier 3, there's the needler, shotgun, plasma rifle, and plasma pistol. Finally, at the bottom, is the Magnum in Tier 4. This is one of the key reasons why it's optimal to switch to your assault rifle when going for melee attacks in Halo 1. Not only does it have the fastest melee attack in the game, which means it has the fastest double melee in the game, it's also up there in terms of its melee range, which matters a lot more than you would think. This matters greatly in campaign as well, and is a good reason to hold onto your AR in tight corridor levels such as the Pillar of Autumn and Truth and Reconciliation. Getting the jump on enemies with the AR's melee attack is crucial in close quarters combat, especially against Jackals and Elites. But do you know what else is crucial? Hiding your browsing data from those who shouldn't have it. Today's video is sponsored by ExpressVPN, the VPN that just works. Sending any sort of data online without an encryption is asking for hackers to gain access to your private information. Don't be like the Covenant where they broadcast their tactical data on unencrypted channels.
By the range!
Checkmate.
Such negligence enabled Cortana to hack into their BattleNet. It properly encrypts your data with top-of-the-line encryption technology, keeping you safe from those conniving hackers. Using this service is also handy to keep your data hidden from your internet service provider and even the government. It does so by rerouting your network traffic to their safe and secure servers, while also masking your IP address to ensure advertisers and large corporations don't go to town on your data. Despite being a YouTuber, I'm not the biggest fan of being watched, only when I consent to having eyes on me, so knowing ExpressVPN has my back is incredibly reassuring. ExpressVPN is a best-in-class provider with over 3,000 servers in 94 countries. And these servers are the cream of the crop, making them head and shoulders above the competition, with faster speeds than any other provider. Do you also want to watch TV shows and movies that haven't released in your country? ExpressVPN gives you access to the plethora of region-locked content that wouldn't normally be available to you. Simply join the server within the country that has access to your desired content, and now it's readily accessible to you. To sign up while supporting my channel, use the link in the description and get an additional 3 months of coverage absolutely free. A huge thank you to ExpressVPN for sponsoring today's video. And now, back to the video. Something I see brought up a lot in Halo 1 discourse is when people cite the pistol's ability to one-hit kill a hunter, and how that is a strong example on why the weapon is overpowered. I will say that it's silly that you can pull this off, and it's one of the main reasons why the CE hunters are the worst in the series. However, that one-hit kill weakness versus the pistol isn't really the pistol's fault, other than the fact it's a headshot weapon. The backside of the hunter is a headshot weak region, which means the sniper rifle's bullets can one-shot hunters as well. You can modify the assault rifle's bullets to have the headshot kill trait, and it'll just take one bullet to kill a hunter all the same. Like I said, I do feel what was done to the hunters in this game was a travesty, and this weakness should not have been implemented. They should have instead taken more damage from certain weapons, whether it's from a needle or super combine, or a plasma grenade stick. In fact, in the 1749 build of Halo 1, hunters were doubly weak against shotgun pellets, but I'm glad this was removed considering the shotgun's already one of the best campaign weapons around, and I'll talk more about the shotgun in that regard a bit later. Speaking of the 1749 build though, something else that I hear a lot is what the community calls the Jason Jones edit. The claim is that Jason Jones, the project lead of Halo 1, tweaked the pistol's damage at the last minute during the final stages of development to be as strong as it is in retail. This is only half true. The damage was not tweaked at the last second, because we have the 1749 build of Halo 1 as proof that the pistol's damage output, which is 25 per shot, had remained consistent well before the game went gold. To put things into perspective, the 1749 build was compiled approximately August 15th, 2001, a little more than a month before it would go gold around late September, and 3 months before the launch of the game. While the damage value itself was not altered in the last second, there actually are some tag edits that snuck their way into the final release. Before I get into those, let me provide some context. These edits are done through Tool, a tag compiling program that's part of the Halo editing kit. If you don't know what a tag is, think of it like a spreadsheet of data that contains the information of a Halo game asset. For example, we have weapon tags, and within weapon tags specifically, we have numerical values that control features such as the rate of fire, magazine size, firing spread, and a bunch more. We also have scenario tags that include the game's level geometry and everything that's contained in them, such as the weapons, vehicles, and AI encounters. All of Halo's map files are composed of these tags, and Tool is the tool that turns a collection of tags into maps. Here's the thing, Bungie only had about 9 to 10 months to work on the original Xbox version of this game. Back then, they didn't have the computer hardware we have now in 2023. Everything took more time to do with their older hardware, especially map compilation for a game that has the amount of maps Halo has. If you make one single weapon tag edit to the pistol, for example, you'd have to recompile all of the maps that have the pistol in them, and Bungie didn't have the time for that. That's where the Jason Jones edits come in. Instead of having to make duplicates of existing tags to get different results from the same weapon, which would require all of the maps to be recompiled, Tool commands the game to overwrite certain tag values upon booting up a map in runtime, meaning the actual map file has to be running, not the scenario via the editing kit's tag test or Sapien. What you likely didn't know is that the types of maps that this happens to are single player maps, not multiplayer. Let me show you what these edits are, which there are 3 of them. The first 2 actually do involve the pistol, but not in the ways you'd expect it to. The pistol natively has a spread range between 0.2 degrees minimum and 2 degrees maximum. Error angles in Halo determine the width of the firing spread of a given weapon, with higher numbers meaning a wider spread, and lower numbers resulting in a tighter spread. When holding the pistol's trigger in multiplayer, your spread will reach that 2 degrees, but if you tap the trigger instead of holding it, you'll stay at the minimum spread value. This is different in campaign, however. The tool campaign edit here is that the maximum spread value is instead 0.4 degrees, making it much more accurate when holding the trigger. Hardy LaBelle, the multiplayer design lead for CE, talks about this in part 3 of his article dubbed Universal Truths of Game Design. In there, the pistol's damage output was revealed to almost always be like how it is now in retail, except at one point in time when the damage value was nerfed, which resulted in it being less fun to use. To balance it out, Hardy added the 2 degrees maximum spread to the weapon to make the pistol more skillful. The other edit relating to the pistol has to do with its matchup versus elite energy shields. The pistol's damage effect tag normally has it set to do neutral damage to elite shields. It's now set to having a 0.8 times effectiveness, nerfing the pistol's damage output against them. To see what could have been, through the game's tag test version, to drop a major elite's energy shields with a pistol is 6 shots on normal, 8 on heroic, and 9 on legendary. In-game, however, it's 8 shots on normal, 10 shots on heroic, and 11 shots on legendary. In a campaign where pistol ammo is often scarce, it's better to just close the distance between you and the elites and use other weapons to break or weaken the shields. The pistol is mostly better off killing unshielded enemies in ranged combat. The last edit is with the plasma rifle. In multiplayer, the weapon has a firing spread between 0.5 degrees minimum and 5 degrees maximum when at full auto. The tool campaign edit makes the weapon twice as accurate as its multiplayer counterpart, with a spread between 0.25 degrees minimum and 2.5 degrees maximum. This makes the weapon a much more viable choice for ranged combat in the campaign, acting like a heavy assault rifle that's not only great at stripping shields, but is just good at killing most things overall. None of these 3 tag edits were present in the 1749 builds campaign, which means these changes definitely were in the realm of being last minute. Going back to the plasma rifle, despite the campaign version's better accuracy, don't write off the multiplayer variant. It's a flanker's dream weapon, and honestly my favorite weapon in the game. When it lacks in full auto accuracy, it makes up for its ability to stun players and cut through overshields like a knife through butter. Did you also know that in multiplayer, the plasma rifle does double the health damage if you land headshots? Yep, when using the plasma rifle, aim for the head. You'll be rewarded for it. The plasma rifle is also arguably the best weapon to use with active camo. What do I mean by this? Well, let's talk about the game's active camo and how it's the best in the series. Halo's multiplayer weapon sandbox is unique with the way it interacts with active camo. Different weapons have different values for 2 features. Camo ding, which determines how much camo is broken when a player fires the weapon one time, and camo regrowth rate, how fast camo comes back when the user has stopped firing. The latter feature is dubbed quick camo for weapons that have noticeably fast camo regrowth rates. The plasma rifle was designed to be used alongside active camo. Each shot only takes 30% of your camo away, and it only takes 20 ticks for camo to recharge back to full. With the plasma rifle's slow and steady rate of fire compared to the assault rifle, your camo will barely disappear with sustained fire, and comes back pretty much instantly. The assault rifle is a close second. While each individual shot only takes 25% of your camo away, the weapon is firing at 15 rounds per second, so your camo will break very fast with automatic fire. To compensate, it only takes 25 ticks for camo to come back, which is still very fast. Since the AR is the typical starting weapon, this is the usual quick camo weapon of choice in most situations, but the plasma rifle is still objectively the best at doing this. The other quick camo options are the shotgun and the plasma pistol. While each shotgun blast takes away all of your camo, it takes about 28 ticks for the camo to return. While the Plaza pistol has the same camo regrowth rate as the assault rifles, each bolt takes all of your camo away, making it not as good of a weapon to use with camo. A key point to all of this is the weapons that are unable to quick camo. These include the pistol, the sniper rifle, the rocket launcher, and hilariously, the needler. It's good practice to switch to a weapon that can quick camo after you're done killing an opponent. This will cause the camo regrowth rate to accelerate since you're now equipped with a quick camo weapon. While this next feature isn't exclusive to Combat Evolved's camo, it has an interesting interaction in CE. Firing at cloaked enemies will reveal them at different rates depending on the weapon you use against them. Human weapon projectiles in CE reveal cloaked enemies way more than Covenant Plasma, and the assault rifle in particular is very good at decloaking invisible enemies. Moving on, I'll now talk about the other weapons and what makes them tick in CE, starting with the Plasma Pistol. It's the default starting weapon when not using generic starts, and quite frankly, it's outclassed by the Plasma Rifle. Its standard bullets aren't as good at stripping shields off Spartans. In fact, the Plasma Pistol bolts are noticeably weak against Spartans in general, with a 0.6 times damage multiplier against both shields and health. The overcharge shot doesn't have good tracking either. Fun fact, the overcharge was able to stun players in 1749. In my opinion, had Bungie not went the route of having the Plaza Pistol be a starting weapon, I think this could have been balanced, giving the Plaza Pistol its own niche as a taser-like stun gun. That being said, having everyone spawn with this version of the Plaza Pistol was annoying, hence why the stun was removed from the alt fire. While the Plaza Pistol is not that great in multiplayer, it's an entirely different beast in campaign. I'd go so far as to claim it's the best weapon in the entire campaign. Each Plaza bolt does a good amount of damage, most of the time dishing out either 16 or 20 points of damage per shot. After traveling for 20 world units, the damage starts to decrease. After 50 world units of travel, shots will do 10 points of damage and won't go lower than that. It's fine though, because most of the time, the Plaza Pistol is being used for close quarters combat. The scary part is that you have a projectile that does pretty good damage coming from a weapon that could be fired as fast as the user could pull the trigger, resulting in some unholy DPS even on Legendary. Grunts and Jackals just melt to this thing, and Elites don't fare much better. While Plaza Pistol bolts are nerfed versus Spartan shields, they are actually buffed versus Elite shields, doing double damage to them, and dishing out neutral damage to their health soon after. Let's also not forget about the overcharge. Not only is it strong, it's a great get off me tool, forcing most enemies to stagger upon being hit with it. There are two other factors that push the Plaza Pistol over the edge: how common the weapon is, and the battery consumption rate for the standard fire. Simply put, this weapon is everywhere. Where there's Grunts and Jackals, the Plaza Pistol will be present, and will occasionally be in the hands of the Flood. This weapon is also very efficient when it comes to battery consumption. It takes 5 standard shots before you use up 1% of your battery. For a weapon this strong, that's just nuts. If it were better versus hunters and vehicles, this weapon would truly be overpowered. I have talked about the assault rifle previously, but only about its great utilities. It's still a monster of a firearm in its own right. What it lacks in ranged accuracy, it makes up for with raw DPS up close. Each round does 10 damage, and with this weapon firing at 15 rounds per second, that's a potential 150 damage per second. If all of your shots land on a Spartan in multiplayer, they're dead in exactly 1 second, since Spartans in CE have 75 shield points and 75 health points. An underrated tactic in the campaign during the Flood missions is to use it as an infection form sweeper. The assault rifle does this the best with its high fire rate and wide spread. You want to ensure that infection forms are dealt with because enough of them around will prevent you from getting checkpoints, which could be a tough situation on Legendary. Speaking of the shotgun, that's up next. I don't think it's a hot take to consider this the best shotgun in the series by far. Great range, very high amounts of damage, quick camo ability in multiplayer, and easily the best anti-flood weapon in the campaign, getting a 50% damage boost versus combat forms and a 75% damage boost to carrier forms. I'd say this is the second best weapon right behind the Plaza Pistol, just due to how hard this weapon carries you in the second half of the game. Ammo is also quite abundant, as shotgun flood are quite common. It's great against just about everything in the game. Flood, all members of the Covenant, and even light vehicles fold to this thing if they get too close. The sniper rifle is stupid easy to use, melting through all types of Covenant in the campaign with its low fire recovery time of half a second between shots. It's balanced out by doing virtually zero damage to vehicles in Flood, and ammo can be scarce on some missions not named Truth and Reconciliation. You usually don't see the sniper used that much in the original Xbox version's multiplayer due to the latency making it a lot harder to use on programs like X-Link Kai or XLAN. But when Halo 1 was brought to PC via the Gearbox port, and by extension MCC, it became unfair. I'd say that, at least in the modern version of Halo 1, the sniper rifle is by far and away Halo 1's best weapon in multiplayer, not the pistol. It spawns way too fast, every 30 seconds or a minute depending on the map, and its rate of fire is lightning quick, decreasing the margin of error when attempting to kill other players. It doesn't help that the Gearbox maps really loved placing these sniper spawns in the most unbalanced locations ever, such as next to an overshield on Danger Canyon, in front of the Banshees on Japhirophobia, at the top of Death Island, and within proximity of active camo on Timberland, really enabling the sniper rifle to be incredibly powerful on these maps. Once again, at least they don't do heavy vehicle damage, but it's more than possible to snipe pilots out of their vehicles, especially Scorpion drivers with their see-through hatches. The rocket launcher is one of the most devastating in the series. Tummy high damage with a wide blast radius, and is easily the most centralizing power weapon in multiplayer matches. Games are decided by which team can control the rocket launcher spawn the most. The campaign side of things is a bit of a different story though. A bit of a hot take, but I don't find the rocket launcher to be all that great in campaign outside of killing wraiths. I'd argue that the frag grenade is the better crowd control option due to being exponentially more common than the rocket launcher while providing a similar power level. Against hunters, which Cortana advertises to be the primary option against them, a single pistol or sniper shot in the back is enough to kill them. To put it simply, there's way too much opportunity cost to use rockets in the campaign when going up against infantry. Ammo is very scarce, and its only real niche is being a vehicle destroyer. Not a bad niche at all to have, mind you, it's just really specific. I know it sounds like I'm heavily downplaying the rockets in campaign. I just wouldn't rank it as high as other weapons due to not being that versatile at all. It does its job, and that's enough for me. Now, if there is something to downplay in CE, it's unfortunately my favorite Halo series weapon, the Needler. It's useless in multiplayer. To counter it, just move to the side a bit. The target tracking itself actually isn't that bad. What brings this weapon down is how slow the projectiles are, making them way too easy to dodge or block with cover. It's such a huge meme that in Halo Neutral Host Edition, a competitive mod for Halo 1 that brings new maps and a bunch of quality of life improvements for competitive, they removed the sound effects for the Needler in a vain attempt to give it a crumb of multiplayer viability. Funnily enough, the Gearbox port, and by proxy the MCC version, has a specific multiplayer variant of the Needler that received a few buffs. It has slightly better tracking, has projectiles that travel at 5 world units per second, a whopping 1 world unit per second faster than its normal counterpart, and to complement the velocity buff, the projectiles have slightly further range, disappearing after 25 world units of travel as opposed to 20. Did you really think all of this saved the Needler? No. But you know what? If you look at the Needler differently, it's a great inclusion to the Sandbox. Some video games have jokes. Smash Bros. Has Pichu, and Melty Blood has NecoArc. Halo 1 multiplayer? The Needler. If you die to someone who used the Needler, you got flexed on, and are now obligated to uninstall your game. That being said, it's actually not that bad in campaign. Outclassed for sure, but it's good at killing or severely weakening elites. One super combine is enough to strip shields even off zealots on Legendary. Believe it or not, it also has bonus damage against Flood. The small, non-super combined needle detonations have a 20% damage boost versus all flood forms, doing 12 damage each instead of 10, and super combines do double damage to combat forms and quadruple damage to carriers. Super combines are also enough to kill sentinels too, with 4 times effectiveness versus them. It's a shame because the Needler was better in 1749. It was able to hold 4 times as much spare ammo as it does in Final, with 240 needles as opposed to just 80, and it didn't feature a build-up fire rate. There's also the 2 Gearbox exclusive multiplayer weapons, the flamethrower and the fuel rod gun. The fuel rod is alright. It's outshined by the rocket launcher in terms of raw power, but the much faster fire rate of the fuel rod gun enables it to be pretty good at taking down opponents with follow-up shots. The flamethrower is actually pretty underrated when used properly. Like the plasma rifle, it's a great flanker's tool, quickly killing unsuspecting players. It can also be used for area denial and hit-and-run strategies, and is particularly great for base assault. The flamethrower was supposed to be usable in the original Xbox version, as seen in the 1749 build. The hit detection for it was wonky, but when it worked, it would have caused enemies to panic and run around in circles as they were being burned alive. And a Halo 1 Sandbox analysis would be fraudulent if I didn't mention the grenades. Frags are without question the most important utility piece in your loadout. They are incredibly powerful, with a wide blast radius, offering potent area denial in key parts of the map. However, that's not what they're only useful for. They're physics manipulators used to launch weapons around the map and move power-ups from their spawns. Having a player on your team that knows about this is highly beneficial to your team's success, and learning these yourself is always a good thing. They sort of brought this functionality back in Halo 5 and Infinite, but it only works with plasma grenades thrown at weapon pads, and power-ups can't be pushed around. Frag grenades in campaign are unbelievably good, instant killing grunts, jackals, and all flood forms, while doing heavy damage to elites. These grenades will especially carry you in flood missions where combat forms love to bunch up. Meanwhile, plasma grenades aren't as consistent as frags, especially in multiplayer where players will easily escape from their blast radius. The biggest weakness this grenade has is its incredibly long fuse time of 2 seconds, and those 2 seconds start where they're either settled on the ground or after sticking to a target. They are good at catching vehicles off guard though. In campaign, however, it's way easier to stick the AI than enemies in multiplayer, and the AI like to run toward their allies in a vain attempt to ask for help, and the explosion will take out multiple enemies as a result. Plasma grenade explosions do extra shield damage compared to frags, so sticking elites is the best way to get the most out of your plasma grenades. Halo 1's vehicles are unique. In multiplayer, there are no destructible vehicles, with all the damage being transferred to the occupants directly. With the exception of the chain gun turret on the Warthog, the vehicle weapons mostly share a trait that many people despise, but I actually find to be rather ingenious: their inaccuracy. The weapons on the Ghost, Banshee, and especially the Scorpion have wide spread values, making these options not very good for ranged combat. Why do I find this to be a great feature? It forces vehicle pilots to actually move to their intended targets, rather than playing Russian roulette with the accuracy. I mean, you can spend your time trying to take enemies out with these weapons from afar, but it'll take you much longer to achieve kills this way than just jumping into the fray and attacking head on. However, I do find that the Scorpion's coaxial gun to be a bit overkill on the inaccuracy department. It definitely could have benefited from a tighter initial spread, and having the maximum spread value fit the dimensions of the crosshair. The main cannon is such a nuclear missile of a weapon anyway that I don't think this would have taken the Scorpion over the edge that much more than it already is. And of course, I can't mention the Halo 1 vehicles without their hilarious splattering capabilities, killing even hunters with a small love tap. The Warthog is tried and true. The classic Splattermobile and the chain gun turret is very powerful and is the most accurate full auto vehicle weapon in the game. The multiplayer exclusive Rocket Hog isn't nearly as good. It can shoot 3 rockets before reloading, but the rockets travel quite slowly in the air, making them easy to dodge. They can also threaten their own users if shooting at an enemy close enough. A shame, because I always loved the Rocket Hog's paint job, and I think it could have been a cool option in the campaign like the E3 2000 trailer teased at. Both the Ghost and the Banshee are going to be discussed at the same time because they're both my favorite iterations in the series for similar reasons. In multiplayer, the plasma bolts fired from these vehicles have the same stunning ability as the plasma pistol and plasma rifle. This actually makes the Ghost really good as a flanking tool against Scorpions, since they will have trouble spinning their turrets around. Both of these vehicles are also naturally fast, without the need for the boost. It's a main reason why I love these versions more than their successors, since you can accelerate quickly and shoot at the same time, making them feel much more exhilarating to use in the heat of battle. Oh, and the CE Ghost can do this against Scorpions. I would spend hours back in the day just playing Tony Hawk Pro Ghoster with a tank as my ramp. The Banshee in this game is also my favorite because the aerial dogfights between two Banshees are at their truest form here. Hours and hours of dogfighting was spent on Death Island back in the day on Halo PC. Honestly, some of the most fun I've had in the series. The Scorpion is rather interesting because it can be comically OP at times, but it has several drawbacks. The cannon is easily the most powerful in the series in terms of raw splash damage, but its low accuracy makes it tricky to use at range. It's best to use it like a rocket launcher, aiming at the floor or the surfaces near your target and allow the splash damage to kill enemies. Its biggest drawback is the see-through hatch like I mentioned earlier when I talked about the sniper rifle. Snipers just feast on Scorpion drivers, dispatching the tank with just one headshot. It's why a common tactic when using the Scorpion is to angle yourself in a way that keeps your hatch away from incoming fire. The Scorpion is also a rather large target, making it easy for explosive weapons like the rocket launcher and fuel rod gun to deal with it. Lastly, we have the Shade Turret. Quite frankly, there's not that many significant uses for this thing in campaign, but when it's available, it's an option that saves ammo. It shreds through shields and deals good damage to vehicles. It did receive a ton of buffs for Halo PC multiplayer. While it lost its build-up fire rate, its projectiles travel much faster and deal more damage, letting it be a threat to other vehicles. The issue is that the gunner is extremely exposed, which means despite the buffs, it doesn't receive a lot of usage. Before we wrap up, let's pour one out for the Wraith, which was originally supposed to be usable for the player, as can be seen in 1749. It was likely cut due to being pretty wonky to use against enemies, with the arc of your shot depending on how your Wraith is positioned on a given surface. In retail, if you mod the Wraith to be usable, the camera position is much higher, likely in an attempt to make it easier to line up specific shots. The Wraith being cut is a damn shame, because I feel it could have been given the usability treatment that the fuel rod gun and flamethrower received on Halo PC, as well as possibly receiving balance adjustments like the Shade Turret did. This rendition of the Wraith that you're seeing on screen is a hypothetical multiplayer version that I made to see what could have been. It features a better camera position, a faster projectile, the ability to shoot at targets much lower than before, a faster movement speed to clear ramps better, and a countdown timer under the reticle to show the fire recovery time. I feel the Wraith would have made an excellent addition to the multiplayer vehicle sandbox. It's a tank that does not leave the driver exposed, unlike the Scorpion, but it's balanced out by firing a mortar round that has a significantly longer air travel time. The Wraith can also reach certain places that the Scorpion can't, such as through the roof of the Blood Gulch base, as well as firing at enemy positions from cover. So while the Scorpion has the raw power, the Wraith would have had much better survivability. That's going to be it for this video. I hope this video has cleared any misconceptions that you might have had with Halo 1 Sandbox. It's a lot deeper than people think it is, with just about everything serving a viable purpose. Many of the niches the Sandbox items have in this game, such as the quick camo ability in multiplayer, are gone in future Halo titles, and I feel it's a shame. If, and only if, you enjoyed this video, leave a like, comment on anything that has surprised you with this analysis, subscribe for more Halo content from this channel, and hit the bell to never miss an upload. Once again, thank you to ExpressVPN for sponsoring this video. I hope we can do business again in the future. I'd like to thank my Sangheili zealot Tomislav, as well as counselors Kashiera, Red Mine, Saving Private Mike, Evan Tripp, Blake Follant, Punk Anderson, Alec Hash, Michael Johnson, Tom Bax, Basic Toast, Ghost, Scatman, UNSC Shooter, C3 Sabretooth, The Cave Potato, Just Larm, TurboSimp, Synonymous Hooligan, Sean T, Reagan Freeman, Konar Daytona, Rad Mayan, Kyle Dealman, and Ghost Slayer. This is the Vengeful Vatum. Always remember that you matter more than you think you do, and I'll see you on the great journey.